This edition of Pigs on the Run and the Cincinnati Flying Pig Marathon, powered by P&G. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Pigs on the Run from Pig Works and the Cincinnati Flying Pig Marathon, powered by P&G. I'm Betsy Ross. And today our guest is the 2005 winner of the Flying Pig Marathon, who has just written a new book, Alison Delgado. She was Alison Bedingfield when she won in 2005, but she is now an author. Her new book is My Race for Life. Just got my copy. Thank you very much, Allie. Thanks for being with us. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So we have not only an author in our presence, but we also have a doctor. It is Dr. Delgado now. So I don't have to ask you what you've been doing since you won the Flying Pig in 2005. Got your medical degree, and you are now a pediatrician out in Utah, Park City. Before we get into the book, how has it been out there? You're kind of on the front lines during this pandemic. How has it been out there for you?
It's been okay. Actually, our office, like I do primary care. So I see kids for their like well child checks and sick visits, you know, their ear infections, their strep throat. And initially when all this kind of started, we were actually really, really slow because people were kind of afraid to come into the office in the first place. And once people got a little more comfortable coming into the office, we're still really just seeing like well child exams, which is good, but because no one's at school, like exposing one and we're not getting your usual ear infections and everything. So it's still a little slower than usual, but I think in general, our community has been like pretty good about keeping things under control, but it's hard out here because we're a tourist town. So we have a lot of people trying to come in here to like ski during winter time and mountain bike. So that's kind of big kicker for us around here a lot of times, keeping our safety from that standpoint. So
right, exactly. So I know that you still run. I guess you're doing more trails than anything else. How has your running schedule been affected by so many cancellations and virtuals and shutdowns now?
Yeah, it's been kind of a bummer because I mean, the plan was initially to come out to the Flying Pig in May, promote the book. I was probably just going to run like the 10K during that race, just because I always have so much other stuff going on. And then when it got postponed to October, I thought, well, okay, this is kind of better. I'll sign up for the full marathon in October because I've actually my accident was in October 2010. So this October will be the 10-year anniversary of that accident. And I've actually completed like 9 marathons since my accident. So this would have been like the 10th marathon on the 10-year anniversary of the accident. I thought it'd be perfect. And then it got canceled too. So, which I was kind of expecting that to happen with Boston canceling, New York canceling. I know Iris is always like looking out for the best of her runners too. So I expected that, but I'm still training right now. I'm planning to do something, whether either the virtual pig or there is like a couple very much smaller races out here that might still run that I might sign up for instead. And if I do that, I'll probably just keep my admission to the pig till 2021 too. Good. So I'm still training. So,
well, what if you do the virtual or come back in 2021, you know you're welcome. So which leads us to the book. Again, My Race for Life, Finding New Strength After Tragedy. And in this, you talk about winning the Flying Pig, but then you also, just as you referenced, the accident. Most everybody knows your story, but for those who don't, just kind of encapsulate what happened and a little bit of the comeback.
Yeah, so I was in my second year of pediatric residency. Pediatric residency is 3 years. I was like about 5 months into the second year. We'd just gotten married. And I was having like first day off in a couple weeks and decided to go out for a bicycle ride. And about 3/4 of the way through the ride, I was riding downhill and I was struck by a car who was making a left turn into the neighborhood. And my spouse is actually the emergency medicine physician who was actually sent out on the helicopter to pick up Jane Doe cyclist who had been hit and didn't realize that I was a patient until they got there. too. So during the accident, I had a really bad bleed around my brain. I had a broken clavicle, broken jaw, broken sternum. I wasn't really expected to make it just through the night. I was in a coma for about 5 days. And during that hospital stay, they had found out that I had also suffered from a dissection of my carotid artery and an aneurysm as well. And both of those were treated during that first hospitalization. I was in the hospital for about 2.5 weeks. And when I left to be a patient at Drake for rehab, I had a really bad speech deficit and I was really weak. So my goal when I was at Drake was to just get my strength back and try to get my speech kind of back intact. I had something called an expressive aphasia. I mean, I couldn't think the words I was trying to say. Couldn't. You pointed to a picture of a bird. I couldn't say bird. I couldn't recognize the name bird. So after I left Drake, after about 2.5 weeks, I'd made a lot of progress. And this was mid-November by this point. And I was hopeful to get back to work by January. I thought to myself, I made a lot of progress. I'm going to get back to work. This is good. And then 3 days after I left Drake, that aneurysm that had been treated at the hospital the first time ruptured again. So I was back at the hospital, and basically everything I'd gained during rehab was gone again. I was back to square one. And for a variety of reasons, I mean, they knew they then had to do surgery. They would have to do a procedure to open my skull and actually clip that aneurysm. But for a variety of reasons, they couldn't do that right away. They had to wait for 3 weeks to do that procedure just because of the medications I was taking. So for those 3 weeks, I was just kind of a ticking time bomb, praying that nothing would happen until they could have that surgery. And then finally, after I was discharged home, they finally had the successful surgery mid-December. I went home. By that point, I had lost about 20 pounds. I was extremely weak. I had the vocabulary of a toddler. And most people did not expect me to get back to work. I think a lot of the physicians who worked at me, even a couple of friends, expected me to end up in a nursing home or assisted living facility. But I was on a mission. I was on a mission to get back to where I was before. Because part of me just told myself, I am here for a reason. I could have died multiple times. I could have died the second that car hit me. I could have died at any point during this hospital stay or during multiple surgeries I had, but I'm here and I'm going to get back to where I was before. So I worked like crazy. And running was kind of the secondary goal. My big goal was to get back to work because that had been my dream, to finish residency and become a pediatrician. I didn't want all this to take away that dream. So I worked like crazy to get back into my residency, and I was back to work within 6 months. And then, so that was April 2011. And at that point, we had actually been invited to be the guest starters for the Flying Pig for the marathon in 2011. And my spouse and I, we decided to run the 5K together, just as kind of a victory, kind of our victory lap. We got through all this together. We're going to run this race together. Mm-hmm. And that day, I actually finished third place in the 5K that year. And when I went to the starting line the next day for the full Flying Pig, I saw everybody out there and all the excitement. I remembering that day when I ran it in 2005. And I told myself, this next year, I'm going to come back. I'm going to run this thing. I'm going to run this full marathon again. Just to kind of show I'm back, and you can succeed after going through some kind of crazy tragedy. You can still overcome. And every injury is certainly different. I have very blessed and lucky in a lot of ways that I'm here today, but running that race was kind of my way of showing yes, you can do this, you can overcome.
Well, and you mentioned that you survived, and that gave you the thought that I'm here for a purpose. Mm-hmm. And you kind of reflect that in the book, that, mm-hmm. This book is not just your story. It's to give other people hope. And it really goes from your time at Coleraine High School, mm-hmm. talks about your high school career, your college career, and a lot of what you talked about being in pre-med and medical school. But the book itself, this is another project that you worked quite a while on
Yeah.
to actually get it
Yeah.
to publication.
Yeah.
That was not necessarily something that just happened overnight. It's another thing that you really had to work for.
Yeah. 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 We had actually, like, after, like, we got a lot of publicity after my accident. After Mark Canute, like, wrote an article in the newspaper, we got a lot of, like, kind of national publicity, and we started talking after that, like, oh, we need to write a book about this. Like, this is a story that needs to be told, like I said, for other people to, who've been through other kind of tragedies. And we looked into having another journalists write the book, and we actually looked into other publishers, and they all kind of rejected it for one reason or another. And after years of just thinking about it and putting off, it was actually right before the 20th anniversary of the Flying Pig. I met a new colleague at our office who again heard my story, and finally, after meeting with him, like, you know what, I need to do this. I need to write this myself, in my own words. And I don't know how good it's going to be, but I'm going to get this into words. And it took me over a year to get it done, because I had limited time to write. But I think it's a little more powerful that it's in my words too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think it is too, that you actually can get the emotion across. But writing this book, what did the actual act of writing, what did that mean to you? Was that a catharsis? Was it just, was it kind of healing all over again by writing this book?
It kind of was. I mean, because initially I started the book, like you said, talking about how I was in high school, and like my idea of like running, and my perception on myself on the time too, which changed a lot after my accident. Talked about, how I met my spouse and how we came together, and made me grateful again for that. But then in writing the book too, once I got to the point of my accident, I mean, there was a lot that I didn't really remember from the accident. I was there, but not there a lot of times. I remember like glimpses of the first hospitalization and a little more of the second one. So I really had to talk to other people who were there to get the whole story. I mean, my mom had kept a journal during my hospital stay. So I used that a lot, just the kind of the day-by-day progress I was making while I was at the hospital. And I also spoke to some friends who were there with me, two of my best friends from college who came down like the next day after the accident, talked to them. I talked to the physician who actually took over for my spouse that day after they found out that we were married couple. And we like cried throughout the time I talked to both of them, because it was emotional for them to like relive all of that as well. But kind of going through all that, like, I wake up like grateful every day that I'm here, but going through that again just made me realize, like, wow, like I went through a lot. So my family went through a lot during that time. And it just makes me even more happy that I have so many people in my life who love me and care for me and would not let me down. I mean, that was part of my success too. I was surrounded by people who never told me like I couldn't do it. I never had a loved one tell me like, Alison, you're not going to be able to get back to work. Like, no one ever told me that. I had that support system around me too.
And you talk a lot about that. You talk about your friends and your support system that really got you through. Mm-hmm. When you look back at this, you always hear the phrase, everything happens for a reason. And you look at this and you think, what in the world was the reason that I had to go through all of that? I mean, you have to kind of search to see what the message is or what the reason is. Mm-hmm. What do you think the reason was that you went through that?
I mean, I don't know, maybe it's so that I could like give other people hope that you can survive. Maybe that was part of it. And maybe it's so I could have like a better like perception of myself too. Cause for me kind of beforehand, like my self-worth to me was kind of based on my like running and my academic performance, and if I had like a bad race or didn't do great on a test, I was so down on myself on it. And like after recovering through all of that, I just had a different perception. Like, I'm lucky to just be able to walk, much less run. I'm just going to run to have fun. Like, run because I can. and I've ran some of the best races I've ever have like since the accident, just because I don't have that like weight bearing down on me, like this pressure, like your self-worth is based on this race. Cause that's not true. That's not true. Just going out there and doing what you love and loving the people around you as well.
That's true. And that first marathon that you ran, the Flying Pig, you ran it in a better time, your winning time, which was, just that example.
Yeah, my 2012 marathon, I ran like 2 minutes faster than my 2005 time. Yeah.
That you did. You did. So people who have gone through trials and, this time in our lives in this world, there are a lot of emotions and a lot of trials that people are facing, not necessarily just physical, but the whole emotional and mental that we're all going through right now.
Yeah.
So your story of comeback, not once, but twice, is such an example. And if you had an opportunity to tell people who are going through a tough time right now, you had an opportunity to talk to them, what would you say based on the experiences that you've had?
Yeah. I mean, I a lot of people who had like injuries or had loved ones who have injuries, they would actually like reach out to me afterwards too. And, I never have like a great answer for them. I tell them everything I did to try to get back to where I was before. Cause every injury is different and everybody's situation is different. But I guess the thing I would say at the end of the day is, first, you got to believe that you can. First thing is you got to believe that you can. And the people who are around you have to believe that you can too. And just take things one step at a time. Just take things one step at a time. This is my goal for this week. This is the thing I'm going to tackle this week. By the end of this week, I'm going to be walking up and down the hallway, and sometimes that seems like such a little thing, but if you've had a bad injury or something similar, that's a big deal if you can make it down that hallway and back. Because I remember being in the hospital and barely being able to make it down the hallway and back without enough stop because I was in so much pain. So there's little goals that you make like day by day, week by week, and keep a journal like my mom did too. For my mom, I think that was somewhat soothing for her too, to like give herself a way to like talk through it every day. But then she could look back at where I was like just 3 weeks ago and say, wow, this is all the progress she's made in just this short period of time. And you can always look back and see like how far you have come, really. Cause it's so easy to come overburdened by the fact like, oh, just before this happened, I was able to do all these things. Well, you can't now. That might be your long-term goal, but make your little short-term goals to get you through. And you got to believe that you can do better than other people might expect you to be able to. You got to first believe it. Yeah.
Was there one day or one milestone during your rehab when you hit it and you said, I'm going to be back. I'm going to do this. Was there one day or one incident?
I don't know. I wouldn't say there was like one day necessarily. I think there are a lot of days, but I guess I do remember one time. It was in February of 2011. I had started, I'd gone back to my residency just to go to like lectures. I would go there in January just to go to lectures, just to sit there and be around my colleagues and to listen to all the learning I was supposed to be getting. And I knew at the time I wasn't really comprehending everything as I had before, but I was there and I was hearing the vocabulary again. And in February, I actually asked if I could like round with one of the teams, meaning I kind of like follow them in the morning, listen to their presentations of the patients that we saw. And the attending who was working with the team that day challenged me to actually see one of the patients myself and present the patient. And it was what we would consider very easy patient, and a patient who had been admitted for an asthma exacerbation, something we see like all the time as Cincinnati children, something I presented, I don't know how many times before the accident. So very easy history that I'm used to getting, but challenged me. It's like, go into a room, talk to the parent in the morning, examine the child, and then present the case to the team. And I knew that morning I did kind of like stumble through it a little bit, but I was able to work through and kind of talk around things if I didn't have the exact, the exact wording. And I don't think the parents could tell too much that I was not totally up to par. And the attending told me like, you're doing great. You're doing like much better than we expected to be doing. Just keep working at it. And that was kind of new, like, okay, I'm going to get this. I'm going to get back. I'm going to get back. So
good.
Yeah.
Good. What a great story. What a great milestone.
Yeah.
And this is a great story. My Race for Life.
Mm-hmm.
Allison's story about, as it says, new strength after tragedy. We can get it now. Where can we buy this book?
My website is www.myraceforlife.com. So we can go to get it. So
myraceforlife.com. Get it now. And whether you need a little boost, someone else's experience that can pull you through, or whether it's yourself, your family, whomever. I think we can all need a little encouragement and boost these days. And this is certainly a great story. My Race for Life. Dr. Alison Delgado, 2005 Flying Pig Marathon winner. Allie, thank you so much. All the best. Didn't see Caden. Caden didn't walk through today. Got the door shut.
That's good. He's downstairs being distracted right now, which is good. He'd be all over me.
Well, he's a sweetheart. How old is he now?
He just turned 4 in May.
Oh, wow.
So yeah, I think we have a future runner on our hands too. We actually went camping over on Flaming Gorge this past weekend. And at one point he was wanting to race with me back and forth on the beach. And at one point he goes, "Mommy, you're still a runner, but I'm running faster than you right now."
Well, there you go. Well, he's always welcome in our Flying Piglet. You know that. He can be.
Yep.
Allie, all the best to you and your family.
Yeah,
thank you so much for your time, and best of luck with the book.
Thank you, Betsy.